Sometimes, evil doesn't knock on the door. It sits at your table, smiling, passing the wine, laughing at your jokes. What happened that night inside the Harper family's home left detectives haunted for years, not just because of what they found, but because of what they didn't. This isn't a story about monsters hiding in the dark. It's about people you'd invite to dinner, people you'd trust to tuck your kids in. By the end of this case, even the most hardened officers said it made them question how well they really know anyone. Welcome to Famous Crime Cases. Tonight, we unravel the mystery of the family that vanished after a dinner party. The Harpers were the kind of family that small towns bragged about. David Harper, 42, was a respected dentist, calm, charming, known for volunteering at the local clinic. His wife, Elaine, 39, was a social worker with a reputation for kindness that bordered on saintly. They had 2 children, Mason, 11, and Chloe, 8. To neighbors in Willow Creek, they were everything a family should be: warm, loving, involved in the community. On March 18, 2019, the Harpers hosted a dinner party at their home, just 6 guests, all close friends from church and work. By sunrise the next day, the Harpers were gone. At 7:12 a.m., a neighbor named Karen Lowe noticed something strange. The Harpers' front door was wide open. Their car was still in the driveway. At first, she thought they'd left early for a trip until she saw the dining table. Plates half-eaten, glasses tipped over, candles burned down to wax puddles. No sign of struggle, no sign of anyone. She called the police. Within an hour, the Harper home became a crime scene. Every light was on, every door unlocked, but the entire family had vanished. Detective Ryan Keller, a quiet man with 15 years on the force, took lead. He'd seen plenty domestic disputes, murders, missing persons, but this felt different. It was like they'd evaporated, he later said. Dinner on the table, TV still on, but 4 people gone. Forensics combed the house. No blood, no forced entry, no fingerprints beyond family and friends. Surveillance cameras from the neighborhood showed no one leaving the house that night. Not a single vehicle moved. The only clue? A broken wine glass under the table, and faint traces of sedatives found in the leftover wine. Investigators turned their attention to the 6 dinner guests. Mark and Olivia Kent, David's longtime friends, both teachers. Trevor Mills, a fellow dentist who worked at David's clinic. Sophie and Andrew Doyle, Elaine's co-workers from social services. All 6 insisted they left around 10:30 p.m. when Elaine began cleaning up. But phone records told another story. At 11:12 p.m., Trevor Mills' phone pinged less than a mile from the Harper home, not near his own address. When questioned, he said he'd taken the scenic route home. Detective Keller wasn't convinced. As investigators dug deeper, the Harpers' perfect life began to fracture. Elaine had recently filed confidential reports accusing her colleague, Andrew Doyle, of manipulating client funds. She had planned to turn in the evidence the Monday after the dinner. Meanwhile, David had recently discovered $80,000 missing from his clinic accounts, tied back to his business partner, Trevor Mills. 2 people at that table had motive. 2 reasons for silence. But silence doesn't make a family disappear. On March 23rd, 5 days after the disappearance, search teams found the Harpers' SUV submerged in Lake Verity, just 20 miles north. Inside were the bodies of David, Elaine, and the children. All 4 had been restrained. Toxicology revealed they'd been sedated before drowning. It wasn't a car crash. It was a carefully planned disposal. Detective Keller said later, "When you see 2 kids like that, it stops being a case. It becomes personal." The discovery changed everything. This was no longer a missing persons case, it was murder. Attention turned to the guests again. The question wasn't who left last, it was who stayed behind. Forensics retested the wine glasses. On one of them, the one nearest Elaine's seat, they found traces of Trevor Mills' DNA and residue from lorazepam, a sedative. When Keller confronted him, Trevor folded almost immediately. But what he revealed sent chills through the entire department. Trevor confessed that he had been siphoning funds from David's clinic for over a year. When David found out, Trevor begged for time to repay it. David refused. That night, Trevor brought a bottle of wine laced with sedatives, planning to calm things down. He claimed his goal wasn't murder, only to smooth things over after the argument. But when David started to collapse, panic set in. Elaine screamed. The kids woke up. Trevor snapped. He restrained them, loaded them into their car, and drove to Lake Verity. Then, with an eerie calm, he rolled the SUV into the water, the headlights still on. Even after the confession, parts of Trevor's story didn't add up. He said it was an accident, that he just wanted to fix his mistakes. But digital forensics uncovered Google searches from his laptop 3 days before the dinner. How long for lorazepam to take effect? Drowning in a car, how deep? It wasn't panic, it was premeditation. He had planned the dinner, chosen the wine, and even tested the dosage on himself days before. He didn't just destroy his friend's family. He rehearsed it. The trial lasted only 3 weeks. Prosecutors called it one of the most coldly methodical murders in Oregon's history. Trevor Mills showed no emotion, even as photographs of the Harper children were displayed in court. When asked why, he said simply, "I couldn't let everything I built fall apart." The jury took just 6 hours to return the verdict, guilty on all counts. Trevor Mills was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Detective Keller later said something haunting. The most chilling part wasn't Trevor. It was how everyone at that table missed the signs. In hindsight, Trevor had been unraveling for months, drinking more, avoiding eye contact, pushing deadlines. But nobody questioned it, because when someone's wearing a mask of success, you want to believe it's real. Elaine once wrote in her journal, discovered later by police, "We spend our lives trusting the people who smile the easiest." Those words became the epitaph on her gravestone. The Harper home stood empty for months. Neighbors said they still saw the porch light flicker sometimes, though the power had long been cut. A local church raised funds to create the Harper Foundation, which now provides scholarships for children who lose parents to violent crime. Detective Keller left law enforcement 2 years later. He said this case followed him everywhere, in dreams, in silence, in the moments before sleep when the world goes still. "You expect evil to look like a monster," he said. But it looked like a man shaking hands across a dinner table. There's a painful truth buried in the Harper case. Evil often hides behind decency. It doesn't snarl. It smiles. It doesn't break in. It gets invited inside. The Harper story reminds us how fragile trust can be, how a single evening can change everything. It teaches that the worst betrayals don't come from enemies, but from friends who mistake your kindness for weakness. In the end, justice was served. But for everyone who sat at that dinner table, life would never taste the same again. What happened in Willow Creek wasn't about greed alone. It was about pride and the illusion that some people believe they can get away with anything, as long as they smile while doing it. But as this case proved, truth always surfaces just like the light of a car's headlights under the cold surface of a lake. Be cautious, stay aware, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who already have your trust. If you found this story meaningful, consider subscribing to Famous Crime Case for more real-life investigations and human stories.